right. It's 9 p.m. We'll cycle back when Chad joins. I want to get started. I have a fair amount written up in the notes, and I've tried to make it self-explanatory. So when you scan through it, and those who couldn't make it tonight gain an understanding of what's going on. I also realized that I mixed up our attorneys' names. The attorneys we're working with are Liz Atkinson and Andrew White of LeClaire. And good evening, Chad.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can. And Chad, as you can probably see, we have Dan, Josh, and Stephanie on, and
yep.
Josh is in a car. And
okay.
the agenda, I see. I think that's Yep, that's you.
Yep, I'm in it.
Okay. So we had getting a fair amount of background noise. If you're not speaking, if you could put your mic on mute. Thank you. So we talked last week about several of the articles, and those were we handled those back on the 29th with Liz, and she described that she would she had spoken with Chad and the notion of how to handle the election and term of office of the board of directors would be self-perpetuating. The comments then for today with Andrew White and Liz Atkinson and me were, I probably should include myself in these notes. Really focused primarily on the election, the second bullet, the election of the board of directors. Thank you, not 15, yeah. And so the idea is that we want the board to be self-perpetuating, and that is that the board will elect replacements for each of their individual members. We will open up to rank and file members that they may make suggestions for the board of directors, but we are not providing members with the ability to vote or formally nominate the board of directors. This comes at the recommendation of our attorneys, and in my experience of 20 years on a board of a privately held bank, that it will enable some level of latitude to have the board be self-perpetuating and self-policing. Does anyone have any objections to this mechanism? Or did you want to discuss it? Or if I'm not explaining it, any questions? Or if you are, remember, I just asked you to go on mute. So if you're on mute, because I asked you to go on mute, and if you're asking a question now, we can't hear you.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. The other was a point on compensation, and so I guess a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So I found one good book and had a second one recommended to me today by our attorneys. Both of them titled "Managing a Nonprofit." One by Thomas Wolfe, the other by Bruce Hop. Oh, I get it. Let me not. You get the right name. It's on my taking a couple notes today. It's either Hodgkins or Hopkins. I'll bring it up. So in both of these books, there's a fair amount of discussion about the um, boundary between a board and officers. And then they also talk about staff and management. There's a lot of discussion about the roles and responsibilities, and the idea that a board should be directing and monitoring, and they absolutely have fiduciary responsibility for the organization. With that comes accountability as well as liability. Um, and so it's probable that we will have some of the board members be much more active than is the norm. And I think that's okay. And so we're clear on compensation that the board members will not receive compensation. And in the bylaws, we're going to leave it at that. This gives us the ability to determine whether we add paid staff or not later on. And so this is just trying to look ahead to say, okay, what's going to happen, 6 months, a year from now, 18 months, 24 months from now, and not alter something that we put in the articles of incorporation and have to update it. So um, the more I read about our requirement to file a Form 990N, which is an equivalent to a tax return for a nonprofit, the requirement to keep audited books so that we can maintain our 501c3 status, and managing bookkeeping, and the firm requirement to keep minutes for meetings that we hold at the board level, um, and we should keep minutes for a while at the officer level. These are things that are they're not optional, and they um, help protect the organization from litigation, but they also keep it clearer and cleaner on managing the organization. One of the so as I've been studying and reading, there are areas that are new to me. One is the legal aspect of what is a 501c3. The other is what are our reporting requirements. And so I've got a little bit of discussion on that later on, but there are also a lot of areas that I think we are also currently pretty well skilled and have thought through what it is that we want to do and what is it that um, what do we need to get done? What are we about, and what do we want to try to accomplish? Along those lines, one of the things that in talking about the mission statement briefly, I'll come back to the agenda presently, but if I may, um, down on the top of the second page, one of the details in the IRS submission form is we have to articulate our mission in 255 characters or less. Josh took a crack at this, and I think it's outstanding. And it's not easy to write in concise form. The old expression, I didn't have time to write a short story, so I wrote a novel. So my thanks to Josh for writing the mission in 255 characters. So as we go through the 1023 easy, I have a hunch that a lot of the form will be read by a machine. So picking up on the examples that the IRS has provided us, both examples that have passed as well as those that have not passed, are important. So I think Josh has done a good crack at this, and as we run it past the attorneys, we'll see what happens. If we have to modify it at all. Okay, back up to the schedule. All right, so we had a couple of changes to the bylaws today. Andrew White is going to make the changes, and he'll go back into the articles of incorporation to clean up and capture anything that is that cascades from the changes that we made to the bylaws. We made a change here. We want to make sure it's consistent throughout all our submission. Liz's estimate on the submission was around 3 to 4 weeks. We had a discussion today, and my recommendation is leaning toward, yeah, let's wait until January 2nd to get everything ready and submit to the IRS. There is, of course, a natural tendency to take our collective feet off the throttle. I'm Chad. I used you as the foil, and I said that I really needed to review these documents with you before we could proceed. So I needed a buffer before January 2.
Fair enough.
I hope that was okay. And so we're going to try to get a rev on the documents over the next several days. And so by early next week, we want a rev on the articles of incorporation as well as the bylaws. From there, we'll get things reviewed. And I think from the rest of these notes, there may be some discussion. I think there will be, that will bring up some ideas on organization or structure, things that we want to try to settle out before incorporating. If not, no problem. Then we just go forward. And again, the way we've structured this is we keep the bylaws separate from the articles of incorporation so that at a board level, we can alter the bylaws with a simple majority vote. We keep minutes of that and it's done, as opposed to resubmitting the articles of incorporation. Okay. That's what I had on schedule. I mentioned the questions, comments so far. Okay. Normal course of running, status meeting as we go, as we get a little more mature. I would expect to be speaking less, and so I apologize for doing a lot of the speaking tonight. That's certainly not my desire going forward, as that keenly interested in hearing about what's going on and what the progress is, and very excited about that. Okay, I'm on page number, let's see, does this Google thing give me a page number? Page number 2, gathering feedback from the FPV community. So as I've mentioned ad nauseum, my experience is working in for-profit companies. And a key metric is, of course, in a for-profit is financial metrics, revenue, profit, whatever, but returns, return on asset, et cetera. A lot of financial metrics, and we can determine success. A nonprofit, on the other hand, has normally a dual responsibility. It has a responsibility to serve the public, because that's why we're getting a tax exemption, as well as some financial metric. But the financial metric can be secondary. And so what becomes critically important is, how are we maintaining a dialogue? How are we gathering feedback? How are we ensuring that as time goes forward that we are serving the FPV community that we have committed to serve, and that we are in fact being funded through the tax exemption? Make sense so far? Does that difference between a for-profit and nonprofit make sense to folks?
Absolutely.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay, so I've spent years working in organizations where we gathered product or services or software product and services requirements. And the best way to get feedback that I found was to go to a technical sales organization. And the reason being is they worked with hundreds of customers, and they were interested in the best way to install and price point. Were we not solving the problems of their hundreds of customers or thousands of customers? And so it was a very efficient way to get at the nitty gritty. And if you talk to an individual customer, the customer will tell you their latest impossible problem. And it may or may not be related to the product that you're trying to get requirements for. So approaching this with that type of experience, I'm trying to think about what's an intelligent way that we should be thinking about. So most every major output, product, result that we create, we want to be thinking about how are we measuring this to the benefit of the FPV community? How do we ask people, am I doing okay? Does this make sense? Is this all right? Is this on track? Is this helping? Now, some of this I think is going to be difficult because one of the tenets that we're really pushing for is working with the FAA so that we ensure that we continue free rights and free access to locations to fly in an FPV manner. So not designated sites as the AMA is keenly interested in. Nothing wrong with designated sites. That's not our primary goal. So given that there is certainly we've seen and read about it that a lot of folks are not interested in adhering to FAA rules and guidelines. There will, we will have to be evangelizing and articulating why it's of everyone's benefit to be able to have the privilege of using the national airspace. So then how do we match that with, are we helping the community? And so if someone says, well, the heck with the FAA, and we're saying, well, we're trying to advocate with the FFA and work collaboratively with them, how do we then in the next breath say, are we helping? Are we doing a good job? So we'll need to be creative on getting feedback. And I've watched Chad get feedback, and he sorts through thousands and thousands of posts, lots of silly responses, but frequently we'll get some really insightful comments. And so maybe it's using and leveraging the existing social media context that we have, using videos and the feedback, or using Facebook. And so this is an area that I'm really open to, but I do feel that we need to be thinking about, for every major deliverable that we create, what is a good mechanism that we can measure what we've just created. Thoughts, reactions?
Well, Dave, this is Chad. I always go back to the mission, and I just say, people's feelings are going to change. So we may even get feedback that sounds like we're off track, but as long as we're pursuing the mission, that's what matters. Mm-hmm. So if two people are talking, or somebody brings up a concern, rather than talking about that thing, in the weeds, so to speak, we just go back to the mission and we say, well, do you disagree with this? Because oftentimes it's not that they disagree with what we're getting done. It's that people will disagree with the method in which it's getting done. So if you go and talk about, well, hey, do you agree with this thing that we're trying to get done? Oftentimes they say yes, and then you just work back from there and find out where the disagreement is. But I think our strongest, I guess, thing to keep us on track is going to be that mission statement.
Okay.
One metric that we can sort of use to see if we're on track is the numbers of members. Is the membership going up or down? And did we do something that suddenly caused a lot of members not to renew? Things like that.
Yeah, that's essentially people. Well, in a retail store, they vote with their dollars. So if they're not buying something, you're not selling what they want, or you're not providing the service they need. Yeah, that's probably
and that may be true for our merchandise as well.
Yeah, I do think that the merchandise will be a nice surrogate for are we doing okay? That, or Stephanie's going to find the most talented artist, and we'll get an erroneous value because the artwork is so stunning.
Hey, I'm doing the very best I can, and I think I have several locked down.
Awesome,
But
awesome.
so I am doing the best I can, and they are actually working on a lot of really cool stuff right now.
That's
So
cool.
I'm pretty stoked about that.
Good. Another item that I would like to probably over the next small number of days is that there was a clever aspect of the mission for a nonprofit, which is the mission statement should have two pieces to it. The first piece is what we've created, and that's a higher abstraction of this is the mission of the organization. The second piece, and particular to a nonprofit, and this again was a new one on me, was some level of specificity that describes some of the tasks and deliverables that we're going to create. And I thought, that's pretty shrewd from the perspective of one of the challenges to is in a for-profit is bridging the strategy to a plan. And it's one of those a miracle occurs in between this transformation. So to think through, well, one of we want education that does the following, or we want to see if we can be part of the knowledge test with the FAA, or or. And so I'll take a crack at it, and I want to share that across the team. But it's I thought a clever thing on the mission that will allow us to then start to turn that into tasks that we and this will build on the existing actions and idea folder. Okay, good thoughts on that one. Any other points um, on the feedback gathering and the mechanisms?
I
All
think a
right.
lot of it's going to end up being boots on the ground. You know, I've found in a lot of cases, people just want to be heard a lot of the time. And usually, when it's the most angry or outspoken or difficult voice to listen to, those are the ones that want to be heard the most. And a lot of times, if you can get past that, you can actually hear what they're saying. Um, and I think it's going to be a lot of trial and error, but we're going to have to actually have conversations with people. I mean, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that getting out there and putting the occasional survey out and just about relevant topics or something that's going on would be ideal too. And you can do that through Twitter or Facebook or whatever, so that we can get the reach through there. We can do it through the Discord if we wanted to, but just you get a lot of it just by talking to people and getting a pulse, but at the same time not everybody's active all at the same time. So getting something that's kind of static out there that somebody can go to on their off time, that's always ideal too.
Since you're of a technical bent, I'm trying to remember there's a network something in NCS. It's a single question customer satisfaction survey. I don't know if you've heard of this, Dan. It's being used across the tech industry. And the question for that's most frequently posed is, would you buy from us again? And we can create the single question, but to me um, it's to if we think about surveying, and I won't get I won't go on and on, but keeping it really brief. And Chad does this with his Facebook surveys. Hey, what do you think about this? And boy, we get lots of comments. And having to Stephanie, to your point, we'll have to have conversations with people. One of the best comments I got, it was in 1985 from a fellow who was on assignment from IBM Japan, told me about requirements. There is no replacement for being there. When you talk to the customer in the customer's environment, you get a better sense of what's really going on. So listening and talking to people, is incredibly valuable. And to the extent we can be face to face, all the better.
I
Okay.
completely agree with that. And that's where we're going to have to differ from an a for-profit business model, because we're more, I mean, community based. So we have to have a little bit more empathy. We have to take a little bit more time, because it's about building those relationships and building that trust to get people to support you. I mean, they might agree with what you're doing and might have some questions about some things, but if you don't have some level of comfortable open communication, they're not going to communicate with you.
Yeah.
And you have about 15 seconds to get someone's attention, or you have about 15 seconds of someone's time. So each day you have to think about, I'm going to limit, just the crap that I put out versus, okay, this one thing we need to get done today. But that's where we have to differ, is to understand that we have to be empathetic to people and to their needs.
Yeah. I like it. There's a good book, Talking to Crazy, Mark Goulston, Goulston, one of my favorite reads. A lot of experience working in difficult organizations, and so it's a good read when we think about, we post a question and you get 500 responses that are all negative. It's like, okay, just what you're saying. Let's try to put ourselves in this person's shoes for a moment and listen and try to sort through the chaff. What's the point that the person's making?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Other points on that topic? Okay, next topic is FPV staff, volunteer versus paid or paid. And so this is one that I'm touching on areas that are, for me, the areas that are really different. I mean, jumping into a nonprofit, having someone around who's not paid, it just hurts my head. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And so in what I'm reading, the tension arises, or frequently arises, when we'll put a paid staff next to a volunteer staff, particularly when the volunteer has been there for a while, maybe through from founding, and we bring in someone and there's resentment. And so one of the ways to try to mitigate the problem is very clear roles and responsibilities. And so it's it sounds like, oh gosh, position descriptions, things of that nature, roles and responsibilities, workflow, and I from the without just focusing on the bureaucracy and the infrastructure, it's something that I'm trying to make sure that we keep an eye on. Something that as we need it, we'll say, oh, okay, I think we need a position description for this now, and that's certainly something that that can be done pretty easily. Any thoughts or reaction to this? Any experience in working together with a mixture of paid and volunteer?
I have quite a bit of experience between paid and volunteer, just in my years of volunteer work for fan conventions that I've done.
Cool.
And just from my perspective, because I've always been on the volunteer side, we're usually in and out for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And paid staff is a very small core group that would have to travel with the show, or were the actual owners of the show. So they ones that put in all the time of everything. So it was never really a question, but we had very, determined times that we were supposed to be there. It wasn't an ongoing thing. It was, okay, you have to be there from this Thursday to this Sunday, and then you're done.
So the brevity of the engagement helped lower tensions.
Yeah, it really did. Plus the other thing too is that I've found a true volunteer, and you can see those. You can tell who are the true volunteers. It's not about getting paid. It's about achieving a goal. Volunteers are passionate people, and they're only going to volunteer for the things that they're passionate for. So as long as you can keep that passion going and that interaction going, and just getting feedback from them to just check and make sure, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are you overdoing it? Are you putting too much time in? Are you taking time away from this? You got to kind of keep your finger on that pulse as well. You have to take care of your volunteers. You have to. A lot of times even more so than paid staff, because they don't have to be there. And if you're relying on them and they go away, well, then what do you have? So it's a really fine dance that it takes someone who really wants to be a part of something to volunteer. So I think that's something that we're just going to have to, I guess, really just kind of approach it when it comes around. But there will be hurt feelings, and there will be, dissension, but it's kind of a nature of the beast too. So you have to decide, is that the hill you want to die on? And how important it is to you. So, but yeah, I've had both sides, and it can be successful if properly navigated.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, that's part of my thought process here is trying to get in front of problems like this. And please don't take this that I'm obsessing on the minutia. I want to, I'm big on majoring on majors, and but I'm also I fully appreciate that the details are what make an entire organization really operate smoothly.
Right, and I think that if it wasn't discussed now, like where we are, we would be doing ourselves a huge disservice, because it's time for us to talk about those things. Maybe not enact them, but at least have it on the table and everybody at least on the same page or close to the same page, because it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Yep. Yep.
It's definitely not an issue now since we have no money.
Right.
But hopefully, if we are successful, like we're planning to be, then this will be an issue that we should be thinking about.
Yeah.
And it'll be a good issue, I hope.
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, agreed on all points. Okay. Other questions, comments on that? Okay. Moving on to status of actions and ideas. This is on the third page. Stephanie, the way I like to try to think of, we've been talking about merchandising, and so my mindset is always what was completed, what are we planning, where do you need help? And so if you could structure any thoughts that you've got on merchandising, on what have we accomplished, what's in front of us, and where might you need help?
What we've accomplished so far is I've gotten everybody on the same page to start working on our first actual campaign, because the brand merchandise is what it is. We're using the logos, unless otherwise stated. So that's kind of a generic thing that we just have to plug and play. As far as the unique limited run, I don't really know how you want to put it, since we're not going to use our store at first. Our branded plus stuff, or our limited edition run things. Our first campaign is fly free. So I told
I'm sorry, is what free?
Fly free.
Uh-huh.
And what that means to you. So I've gotten the team, kind of jazzed up about that. And what does that mean to you? Show me visually what that means to you. So I'm going to have them submit, everything that they have that they want to submit, have it ready for you guys for first looks, and then you can choose from that, what's you.
I love it.
As far as milestones and dates, the dates that I have set for that, and since we're getting close to Christmas, it's going to be kind of hinky because I don't want to put too much pressure on everybody.
Yep.
But the first date that I have set for them is the 14th. If I need to push that back, I can, but I'd like for the first packet for first looks to come to you guys by the 17th.
Okay.
That's my goal. But I'm depending on volunteered time, so I don't,
I understand. Yeah,
I'm
completely
not going to be a
understand.
dictator.
Yeah.
And as far as what we'll have, that's I need an opinion from Chad on that, like what kind of things you want covered. All of the art that we're doing is vector, so we're going to be able to scale it up and down accordingly. I'm having everybody save at 1620, 16 by 20. That way it can be scaled down and still translate and look well. But it'll look amazing on like shirts, hoodies, bigger pieces like that. So that's, hold on, let me check my notes.
Okay. So that's
what is it that you wanted to check with me specifically?
Just what types of things that you want as for merch?
Oh,
So
for
we've been talking about shirts, hats, and jackets, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else specific?
Well, no, I would say stick to the basics until you find out what people want.
Cool. Yeah, I want to keep it small and simple because if you offer too many things, then nothing is sold.
Yep.
So cool. All right, we're on the same page on that one. Good. Yay.
Are you looking at a print on demand capability?
I have. See, that's the thing. That's the other thing that I needed to find out about before I'm able to really commit to anything. I have to know what our sales platform is going to be. Because there's several ones that we can use. I don't know how they would integrate into other websites and stuff. That's the only thing that's holding me up with that. But I think that's our best bet because we're not having to come out of pocket for anything. And that's like the most important thing. And you can set your campaign to run however long. You can have it perpetual, you can have it, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. And every 3 days they ship. They'll print and ship however many orders they have. So you don't have to wait until the end of the campaign. So that was a huge plus.
Okay. I'm thinking that maybe could you and I spend some time on this, Stephanie, so I get a feeling for the mechanics and what the cost options are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can have some notes together probably tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
I can push and I can have that ready for you so that you'll have something tangible to look at as well, because it's a lot. And I don't want to start talking about one point and just completely lose you because it's really easy.
Okay.
Especially with these platforms.
All right. So maybe Friday noon Eastern, something like that.
Sounds brilliant. I'm writing it down.
Okay. So let's see. I'll ping you for a phone number that I can call, and if you want anyone else tied in, we can pull them in.
Okay. Yeah, just the number that you have for me is fine.
Okay, and that was an explicit invitation to folks on this call. So if you want in, please speak up. Okay, Friday noon, call Stephanie. Okay. So meta discussion, a discussion about a discussion. What I just did is I try to have the discussion go for a bit, and then when it gets to a level of detail that it makes sense that we handle it outside of this meeting, that's what I try to do. So that's what we just pulled off. All right, code of conduct, or let me, before we close that out, Stephanie, anything else on merchandising?
Nope, that's kind of where we sit right now.
Okay.
And I think I'll be able to get a lot cleared up Friday and
Okay.
be able to
Okay.
really kind of hammer forward with that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for all the time and energy you've been putting into this.
problem.
Code of conduct. Josh, my apologies. I have not pulled it down and edited the code of conduct. Have others had an opportunity to look at what Josh wrote? Okay, so
I posted it up for everybody. So if you do have a moment, please take a look at it. It's a pretty important document that it's going to go to pretty much every member and every staff member. So
Pulling
please
it
look
up
at
now.
it. Give me some feedback.
Briefly after you
Right now,
posted
but
it.
I'm sorry, I think Dan, you had a question, or was that a
Oh, I
statement?
was just saying that I did read it, sort of read over it briefly after he posted it, and it all looked really good. I didn't memorize it or anything, but I thought it was good.
Okay, and Josh, I will go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I agree. A code of conduct is explicitly part of what we will hand to not only members, but hey, here's your member package, but it's also what we would hand to the board of directors. And so it's I agree, it is important. Okay. Next topic is the website. So what I would like to do is set a review, Chad, with you and me, that Dan can take us through the website. Now it may be brief because we've been there before, but I did want to do a last call before we hit the publish button.
Yeah, when would you like to do that?
Dan, what is your availability to do that? One, I'm hoping that's okay with you, Dan, but then if that's okay, what's your availability?
That sounds great. We're fine. I work a typical, 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon kind of thing, Monday through Friday.
What time zone are you in, Dan?
Important.
I'm sorry, Dan, you clipped.
Oh, I'm in the central time zone.
Okay. All right. So early evening, is that like if we did something 7 p.m. Central?
Yeah, anytime in the evenings works, or weekends are fine too, usually.
Okay. Chad,
I'm pretty flexible. It's a priority. So just I'm not traveling the rest of this week. So
okay.
So yeah, I'll make it work. Whatever works for you guys.
All right. Has let's see, Saturday. Does what's a preference for you guys if we did a Saturday? So remember, I'm an old fart, so I'm an early riser, and it makes me a little crazy when projects get scheduled for the middle of the day, because that sort of makes it difficult. Then I have to be back in front of a computer in the middle. So either my preference would be beginning of the day or the end of the day. Chad, do you have a preference?
Sorry, I had to get to the unmute button. I'm always better in the mornings. I'm fresher as I get towards the end.
Same here. So if we did an 8 a.m., is that too early, Chad?
No, that should work for me.
Okay, so that says I'm going in the wrong direction. That
That's
makes it
7 a.m. for those
That's
of us.
7. That's 7. That's 7 in the. All right. So if we said 9, that would make it a little more human for Central. Does that?
Yes, please and thank you.
Does that work, Dan?
Yeah, that would work for me this Saturday at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. Central.
9 your time.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Do you want to use this Discord channel? You have, and then if you give us the link on the Pathfinder, whatever, then we could be looking at what you're looking at. Or what's a good way to run the logistics of this, Dan?
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing. We could certainly start off with this Discord as the voice channel for everything.
Okay.
Not sure if we wanted to sort of share a screen or anything, we could come up with something else.
Yeah, I get it. Just
Be okay without needing that.
I'm with you. It would just here's the link. We're on Discord, so 9 a.m. Saturday. Here, and then if I could trouble you to just copy in the link to the website before Saturday morning.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfecto. Okay. I'm sure that link is in there somewhere. Is there? I'm wondering, is there any homework that I should be doing before that? I do want to look at some of the deliverables, so I should make a note of that. Some of the deliverables that are already up there, up on the site. Okay. I think that's what we had in terms of marketing topics. Anyone else on any of the other, be it YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or creating articles, etc. Okay. Stephanie, I have a hunch that you've not had the time to touch anything on PR, given what you've been doing on merchandising, which is a bunch. Is that fair?
That's a fair statement. I'm still trying to establish contact, relationships with certain pilots and things to kind of get them, kind of gauge where they feel about what we're doing and whether they're willing to, say, plug us in certain ways. That's still kind of hit and miss a little bit because we're not official. There's a few that
Absolutely.
I've spoken with that aren't completely comfortable, going 100% yet, but haven't completely turned down the idea, which is cool, and that's very fair.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and I totally accept that.
Okay.
But as far as anything else, I haven't really done much, to be honest.
Okay. Fair enough. I wanted to jump down to one other topic, which is the FAA relationship, and this was prompted by, I think, Josh and Stephanie today, and Josh shared a note from a Vic Moss who said, "Hey, we're being asked, or they're being asked by a social media person in the FAA, what can be done to help encourage attendance at the AUVSI/FAA event next summer?" And so I think my immediate reaction was, well, I'm not sure that I really want to talk through someone. I would like to talk to the FAA, but that's just the way I am, I guess. But from that, we started coming up with maybe we should start to think about what are the various ways that we can approach the FAA to offer collaboration. And the one that always comes to my mind is we are expert in being able to create a knowledge test. And then as we look through the list of deliverables and dates that AJ provided us, I bet that we can find tasks that we can then find someone in the FAA to work with. And so my thinking is that the moment we are approved as a 501c3, the first, then we want to ask, the FAA again, and we got the response from the fellow in the Cleveland area regional FAA office, and his response was, this is the 2018 FAA reauthorization was from Congress. It's a big document. We're going through it in the FAA, and so it'll take some time before we're able to say, yeah, we're interested in working with you, and yeah, we agree that you're a CBO. So, okay, how do we go back after that? We now have our 501c3. Now, will you consider us a CBO to work with you? Okay, and then great. What can we do to help? But also, we want to approach the FAA in as many locations as we can, as many parts of their organization as we can, and offer help. Reactions to that? Any thoughts on this?
I love Josh's idea today where he said that we need to start compiling a contacts list, or just look at their structure and what they like, just the available contacts that they have, and we can start formulating a plan from that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that we would do ourselves a great disservice if we didn't jump on this now and start at least planning, or getting organized, because we don't want to lose any time.
Yep. Chad, any reactions to this one?
No, I mean, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
I think the big
You're breaking up pretty bad, Josh.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's better. Don't move.
Okay. Okay. I'm not moving. Sorry, I'm in a giant metal building right now. So anytime we have a chance to talk to the FAA, we need to take it, whether we're formed or not formed. I think the more we put the bug in their ear about us and about what we are capable of doing and what we want to do, what our mission is, the easier it's going to be once we start saying, hey, now we want to be a CBO. How do we go about that? And not only that, but it shows that we have a competence level in governing, not necessarily governing, that's not the word I'm looking for, but the gist is there, of FPV pilots, kind of guiding them and towards safe flying, which is exactly what they want. And we want to be able to demonstrate what we have to offer in that field. So, like I said, the more we can talk to them, every opportunity we can talk to them, from multiple different angles.
Okay, I got most of that. Sounded like you're on a VoIP. That was pretty. Some of it was a little garbled, but I think we got most of the point. I think there's a universal agreement. And if you'd start work on a contact list, I will start a list of tasks that we want to offer to the FAA. Hey, well, we'd love to work with you on. You appear to be the chief agency lead on. What a great match. And we'll
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
keep working it.
Cool.
Love the idea. I'm surprised I got through all of that quickly. Hopefully I didn't give it short shrift. Okay, time check. Oh my gosh, 52 minutes. Other questions and comments?
Stymie, do you want to go over the Google groups you've been working on and any of the membership management type stuff? Make sure
As
we're
far
all on
as
the
the
same
group,
page.
yeah, as far as the groups go, because overall we all kind of dip in and out of every team because we can do that. We have a lot of skills that can be used anywhere. That's worked for us. So instead of any of us being on a designated team, we're kind of all over the place. I'm trying to let that translate with the bulk of the volunteers that I'm about to pull in now for us to have as our working pool, which is the whole purpose of the groups. I set up the volunteer lounge as one main group. Everybody has to be in that group, because from that group, we're going to post what team has stuff going on, and different people can say, hey, I'd like to be a part of that. And then we put them in that group, and then they can work on that for however long, or however long it takes. That way you're not you don't necessarily feel like you're shoehorned into one specific thing, and you're able to feel more useful. And that's one of the, the major things that I'm trying to instill in us is this is how we help our volunteers, and this is what I'm trying to do for our volunteers, is to show that they're supported and that their time means a lot to us. So if we don't rule over them or overmanage, or come down with a heavy hand, you'll get a lot more for your buck, which is time at this point. That's kind of where the groups are right now. They're a little on hold because I just got the last of the volunteer applications processed in my sheet that I will post for everybody to look at. Pretty much everybody that has been a part of the Discord, actively, that wants to help in a certain area, I think that those are the ones that have kind of been vetted at this point to be trusted with tasks, if that makes any sense.
About how many folks roughly, Stephanie, is that?
Right now, there's about 5 or 6 outside of us, except for the team my design team. Like they've got their own thing, so I kind of pulled them out of the equation. But outside of our group here, there's about 5 or 6 that have proven that they're willing to, go the distance.
Okay.
And I think that, plus also taking into consideration, not necessarily their pull, but kind of where they stand in the community, it could be very beneficial to us as well. So I'm kind of weighing it all together. But I'll get with you on that. I'll show you my notes on who's what before I do anything. But there's a lot of really influential people that I think could be helpful for like fundraising.
Awesome.
For education, which is great because we really need to have that kind of established. And as far as people who are willing to speak to others, I have a couple that are really key. They're really good speakers, and I think they would be very beneficial to utilize their talent.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll get all those notes for you also and have that ready for you.
Awesome. I think that was Dan asking the question. Did that cover your question, Dan?
Yep, that sounded great.
Okay. I also added a point on the tail end on the productivity tools, and Stephanie, thanks for setting up all of the Google groups. Certainly, personally, it'd be great to be able to have our documentation at a on a cloud server that has the ability to be easily, just click. Yep, it's going to be backed up on
I agree.
this type of regularity. Love that. Google the various tools, the sheets, slides. They're all pretty easy and so similar to Microsoft Office that it makes it, with the exception of Excel and Sheets that I'm struggling with. But it's a great way to be a secure repository for documents.
I agree. And groups can be used for that also. We'll be able to have links to things put in one specific place that never leaves that one place. Like with Discord, we lose stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Because it gets lost in the thread, or and it's driving me nuts. Which is why I went ahead and made all of the groups.
Yes. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
And I'm thrashing around for a project management application. That's PM app. That's what that shorthand means. We're looking at Flow in Rotor Riot. There are a couple of others. I shared through the week effectively a work breakdown structure for our various projects that I keyed into Microsoft Project. I'm not advocating MS Project. It's very expensive. It's a great tool, but it's just prohibitive for a small team. So we'll find something like Flow, or there are a couple others that are, to me, the benefit. We want to be able to show tracking status, and we all want to have access to it on a multitude of devices and operating systems. And it's standard fare. Okay, this is the project. Are we behind schedule, ahead of schedule? What are the issues? What's the mitigation plan? So this is project management 101 stuff. So I'll continue to dig on that and provide any. I'll share some ideas and recommendations. And that's what I had. Anything else? Any around the room? Any? We did have a couple of documents handed in, and I talked to AJ, and AJ will be able to continue to work at what he's been doing. Good news for him is he's got a couple of extra gigs that are going to keep him busy through February, so good for him. But he's absolutely going to continue with us, and certainly the documents that he's shared with us are invaluable. I mean, I don't know where he's finding some of this stuff. A UTM out of Manchester, England, the July FAA document. That's their 5-year integration plan with full manned and unmanned. It was just, my goodness. So they had that in hand when they were presenting to Congress. So pretty cool. And my thanks to AJ. I say that, Dan, because I know we're being recorded, and I'm trying only to say nice things because I know we're being recorded. No, I'm kidding.
There you go.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I
Hey,
am serious.
that's what it takes.
Yeah, for this New Yorker. But I do appreciate very much AJ's work, and the documents are really helping us out. Okay. I've been talking almost the entire hour. Anyone else? Any comments, concerns, questions? Okay, everybody. Thanks again so much for the time. And it is well, we kept it. I'm looking at 10:01, so that's pretty good calendar integrity. Thank you all for showing up on time as well. That helps across the team, and we'll try to make sure that the meetings start and stop on the time that we're advertised. Have a good. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Next weekend or next Wednesday, are we all? Because we're going to be hitting the holidays soon. So let's see. The 19th is no good for me. I can shift to another day that week. And then the 26th, I would like to cancel, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, canceling the 26th makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
was
second
gonna
that.
suggest that.
Good. And the 19th, I really do take these meetings seriously, and I don't want to show up to that meeting with a couple of glasses of wine under my belt, which will be the status on the 19th. I can do the meeting on Tuesday or Thursday, or looks like Monday or Friday. Could we shift the week of the 17th or the 19th meeting to some other evening? Cancel 12/26. How about Thursday the 20th?
Thursday looks good to me.
Okay, 12/20. So we're going to move 12/19 to 12/20, and we're going to cancel 12/26. Very good. I'll send out a reminder on the pathfinding channel to that effect, so that AJ and hopefully we see Sean soon, and Zoe can see that. Great. I'm going late. I'm 3 minutes after.
Oh no. Get off this call.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll be in touch.
See you
Night,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.